Alright, welcome. If you're new to the channel, my name's Elliott and you're watching Rickety Ski Reviews. Today, we've got the Shred goggles out. We're going to be talking again about Ted Ligety. Now, one of the viewers suggested this video, so I'm going to check it out. It is an interview with Tom Gellie on basically like a podcast interview with Ted Ligety. It's called Ted Ligety, Innovating Ski Technique and Adapting to Become World Champion. What a long title, God! Oh God, okay. Anyway, let's not make this a long intro. I am gonna skip around a little bit. I tried to watch some of this. It has the longest intro where the guy goes, "This is what I did. This is me talking to Ted, and this is the question I asked." And then he goes and asks the question. It's like we already, he literally explains what he's gonna do and then does it exactly in that order. It's like, it's really long. It could all be like cut out. It's kind of boring to begin with. So I'm gonna just start right at 4 minutes and 30 seconds. There's this other ski guy that wants to ask Ted a question. So let's just jump right into that. The other thing I wanted to say is I looked up Tom Gellie and I never heard of him before. His about says he is a member of Elite Skiing A-Team, the best 11 ski instructors handpicked from around the world. Why 11? What, they're 10 and the guy's like, come on guys, I don't want to be left out. Also, Europe, I know ski instructors is a little different, but God help me if I was ever one of the top 11 ski instructors. Good Lord. My dad's a ski instructor. I have a lot of respect for PSIAA, but when you get into like the bureaucracy of like level 100 coaching and PSIAA instructors, it's just very dry, very boring. And a lot of the best skiers I know don't deal with stuff like that because it's so many extra hoops for something that's supposed to be fun. That's just my hot take about PSIAA instructors. So now that I've offended everyone, let's just jump right into this video. So we're going right at the 4.5 minute mark. Ted Ligety, Innovating Ski Technique. For a little bit of background, I have met Ted a handful of times. I used to work for his ski camp as a coach for his race camp up in Mount Hood. I was a camper when I was a teenager. I like Ted. He was always very nice to me, but I wouldn't say I know him like personally that well. I have a lot of respect for him. I have a whole video about how I looked up to him as a teenager and kind of what the Olympic, his first Olympic gold medal meant to me. You can see that down below. But today I'm just gonna be reacting to this because I think there's some good stuff in here. I'm watching most of this blind, so let's just jump right into it. Here we go.
So Tom and I have been chatting this week and he was excited that you're gonna be on his podcast and whatnot, and he was saying, hey, listen, what kind of question would you ask Ted? And I knew right away what question I would ask you because I think it's very cool. I was just wondering, now that you're...
Can you just get to the question? It took 20 seconds to load up what question you're gonna ask. I was very excited. He's very excited to have you. Yes, we know. Oh my God, yes, we know. This is like people you talk to and they're like, hey, can I ask you a question? You just did. Just ask the freaking question. Okay, whatever. I don't know these people, but this is annoying. These are little things that irk me. Okay.
You're not, racing. I'm sure you can share this, but just how you got the confidence in yourself to, change from Rossignol to head, and then when that needed to happen, and then how did you just change your skiing approach and your tactics to getting proficient on the longer ski? You were really, you were a huge voice of reason, but negativity with the longer ski and the longer side cut and how that maybe was not as advantageous to viewerships and all that stuff. But again, you then were able...
Oh my God, is that a question or is this a small paragraph about your life? Dude, just ask the question. I might have to run this at 1.5 speed. This is so annoying. It is a good question. I do want to know why you switched from Rossignol to head.
Able to like shut that off and go and relearn how to ski on a ski, and essentially you innovated a new style of skiing on how to get around the gates, which is like super cool to me. I have like tons of respect for that, to say, hey, listen, the style of skiing that works now isn't the style of skiing that needs to work in the future, and the payoff was huge. So kudos to you, my man.
Okay, I'm gonna edit some of this stuff because that took forever. So if it looks a little choppy, you can watch the whole interview down below. But this guy just takes his sweet time getting to the point. Oh my God. Also, I asked Ted the same question when I was a kid, when he switched from Rossignol to Head, and the tongue-in-cheek answer he gave me, which I don't think is necessarily true, but he just said, oh, Head paid more. I'm sure, I don't know if he was probably just joking. He's probably just messing with a teenager, but that was what he told me. I was like, oh, from Rossignol to Head, because I was skiing on Rossignol at the time, and I still really like them. And I was like, how did you make the jump? Why did you make the change? Oh, well, Head signed a bigger check. I don't remember if that was his exact response. I'm probably paraphrasing, but it was something like, oh, Head pays more money. But at the time, for most professional ski racers, that is a big proponent of it. And I also think Head made nice skis, and I had demoed them myself and liked them a fair amount. I just liked the Rossignol's a little bit more at the time. But I think Ted was such a good skier that, you know, as long as the ski was performing at a good standard, I think that was fine. Who knows what answer he's gonna give now, but that was the answer I got back then.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of pieces to that. So if I can, so the first question I guess is like the switch from Rossi to Head, which like when I was on Rossi, I like won the GS title, and the next year I switched to Head. So like I'd done well, but I actually consider that season like a little bit of a failure because I didn't win an Olympic medal in Vancouver.
In my head, I just see him doing the crank the wheels. Don't say they paid me more money. Don't say they paid me more money. Ted, we got in trouble for this last time. Don't do it. Also, Tom Gellie, what is this production? We found like an empty poker table, filled it with LaCroix, and then showed Ted the question on our phone. I know I'm out here in my backyard, but at least I have like a real camera. You can show somebody something other than on your phone. Whatever. What? 41,000 subscribers? Come on. By that point, you should be able to have a little bit higher production value. Where are they? You know what I mean? This is weird. Okay, whatever. Let's see what Ted has to say. Because I genuinely am watching this because usually Ted has very interesting things to say when it comes to this stuff.
And I mean, honestly, it was like kind of an easy switch because I tested the Head skis. I liked them. I thought they like matched well with my skiing, and like in some senses, like sometimes like switching ski companies like for a racer is like kind of like a kick in the butt, a motivator. Like you're like, and it like kind of reinvigorates you. And Head was in a place where they wanted to throw a lot of resources, and like we're like, okay, like you need a new boot, we can make you a new boot. You need a new what? Like they're just like doing all that, and Rossi was in the inverse place where they're like, what you get is what you get right now. We're like in like they're in bunker mode. So I mean that for that sense that was a easy decision I think on my side of things. And then he was getting into like the 2012, 2013 like ski switch. So that came out the year before that. And initially they decided like, so originally like our ski.
Okay, first off, the stuff Ted is saying is super interesting. And I've seen that with ski companies where they come out with something really new and really innovative, and then they'll just kind of sit on it. A good example would be the Nordic Enforcer. It didn't have any real big meaningful changes for 10 years. Now, they were working on other skis, so I'm not saying the whole company, but for that one ski, it kind of went into bunker mode. Same for Rossignol, honestly. I think the Sender 110 is the newest recent innovation, but I just put out my review for the Experience 86s, and it's like Rossignol was kind of on top for a long time, especially around the time Ted was skiing on them, and it really feels like they've gone through waves of being on top, and lately they have just not been there. The Sender 110 Free is probably the one big exception, but I hardly see anyone on Rossignol anymore. Dynastar is a good example. They had their Legend series, they had a bunch of skis where everybody was on Dynastar, and now you don't really see it anymore. So that's super interesting. And Head, to their credit, I mean, it feels like Head is constantly trying to make something new and innovative. They seem to really be invested in that kind of thing. Even working with me on getting me skis out, although, I don't love all of their skis. It seems like they are very active and involved, and that makes a big difference, especially someone who is a ski racer who's, the build of the ski and the construction of the ski has an effect on his success long term. So I totally get that. That makes sense. Tom, you look so bored. It's like you are just doing the slow nod. I don't know anything about this guy. I don't have anything, like no axe to grind against him. But dude, do something. It's like he's doing the bare minimum. Just, He looks so uninterested. Okay, anyway. I'll give him a chance. I haven't even heard him really talk.
My like race skis when I won like the title the next year on head 2010-11 were like the rule was 27 meters and the skis just had to be over a 185, which nobody ever skied on a 185 or a 27 meter radius. My skis were like a 29 meter radius and they're 191s.
Man, you really forget. You really forget what those turn radiuses used to be. 27 meters. I was in college when they started to make this change, and luckily I didn't get affected by it too much, but that's such an open radius. You basically have these long straight skis. It's hard to turn. It makes it so you have to slide things out. It's really dangerous. I think, Ted being outspoken about it was good. I mean, it's nice to see somebody stand up to FIS and all these other ski organizations rather than just like, oh, yes, sir, and you see it all the time in the ski industry. Not a lot of people actually stand up to these big corporations, so that's cool.
And initially they first had the rule come out as like 40 meter radius, and like that was a complete joke. And actually like head was part of that like testing that FIS was mandating. They made a pair of those, and we brought a pair down to New Zealand that year, and like I wish I looked as good as Phil Mayer going down the course, It was a complete joke, and that like made my blood boil and a lot of other people's blood boil when they actually did that. And I think like after they had like tested a couple times, they realized like, okay, this is like a really horrible decision. They took it to 35, which still at that point was like still old school skiing. And like, so I was like pissed, because I think like my personal view on equipment rules is there should be no rules. They're like, we should self-regulate ourselves. Like, I don't want to put a pair of equipment on.
Okay, I messed up. I was thinking 27 was a large one. I'm so used to short radius skis now with all mountain skis. So 40 meters and then they went down to 35. I mean, that's crazy. That's just actively capping out the sport. I know that like freestyle skiers have had a similar issue with poles or no poles. And it's just like, it's this old organization that everybody pays dues to, making rules that aren't rooted in reality. It's not like the people who make these rules actually have to ski on them, actually have to put their health and safety on the line. It's so silly. This is a very long podcast. I don't know if I'm going to go through all of this. Maybe let me just look ahead and find some timestamps, because this is the thing with skiing. It's like all of these, they get these great people to interview, and then it's like a Skype call with Lindsey Vonn with Ski Racing Magazine, or a poker room with Ted Ligety. Can we get a little bit of production value? I guess they have mics. I should be grateful they have mics on. Oh, God, okay. Actually, forget that. I'm not going to do double speed. I'm just going to skim ahead and find stuff. Some of this stuff is pretty boring and pretty in the weeds. A lot of what Ted is talking about is just how he as an athlete would go with head and innovate and make a ski that reached the FIS requirements. To me, that's crazy. It's like skiing is already such an elite sport that unless you have either the access and success that Ted had or the money to develop your own skis, that seems to really help people a lot. And it's crazy. There should just be a standard ski and standard equipment. There shouldn't have to be, oh, we're changing the radius now. Everybody has to adapt to it. And whoever has access to all these tools and equipment. It's like, that's why you see so much diversity in sports like running or like soccer, because it's like it requires so little to develop that skill. Oh, you can go run. Anybody with a pair of shoes can go run. Even Ethiopians who's run without shoes can go run. I love skiing and I love gear, but it's kind of crazy when you think about it on an athletic level that people have to like go and tinker with their stuff. Ted's talking about like tinkering with the boots and getting carbon and getting to line up with power that he likes. One interesting thing that he did say was basically he's pretty lucky in that he can just kind of step into boots and they fit. And for me, as long as it's like the right width or whatever, that's true for me too. I never had to have boot work done. I can just buy them off the shelf and slip my foot in. And as long as I give them like a few days in the warm office or in my house, I can break them in pretty quickly. And I feel very lucky for that because I don't have to like canter. I don't have to do any kind of canting or anything like that. So, all right, I'll keep scanning for you guys. I know there's gonna be good stuff in here. I just gotta find it. This podcast is so boring. Oh my God. And Ted is very interesting when he talks. Like the stuff he's saying is super interesting. He's really good. The host is just really boring. It's almost like the host is waiting for Ted Ligety to tell him to talk about. Ugh. Okay, whatever. I'll see you in a second. Okay, the other thing he's talking about now, he's talking about mounting points, and this is actually pretty interesting. He's talking about how he tends to play with the mounting point, and even just like on current skis, he likes a -2 mount point, which I will say, like, I found too, at least with the peak skis, I don't know if it's 2 centimeters, but 2 clicks back. I'm assuming that's about the same, but right, because you think about it, like 5 to 10 millimeters. Yeah, I don't know, but I agree with that. He says it because it feels like it's mashing the carving. I feel it mostly because I feel like if I overload, it's easy for the tip to grab, and you have to worry about that less going over the front. You can kind of sit and let the ski float while still loading all of your pressure into changing the ski shape. That's just my opinion. I haven't tried it on every single ski, but just on those peaks, that's what I found. All right, next we're gonna watch Ted talk about carve. I went ahead and I'm gonna dial it back so you guys can watch it. It's basically, this guy, just so you know, Tom Gellie, he also works for Carve, so there's a little inside baseball there, and then Ted works for Carve. I'm not sure if he's invested in it or he self-developed it. I don't know. He makes money, they both make money on Carve. I've reached out to Carve to see if they'd send me something, and I've got no reply. Not that that means much, but who knows. I would love to test it out, but let's see what Ted thinks. This is actually pretty interesting. He's just talking about, you know, now that he's not racing, what he sees with a lot of people's carving techniques. So here,
like a bit of a progression or suggested things to do. What have you learnt from, like, now, like, it's not really about racing, it's just general skiing? Yeah, can you talk to that at all? Like, was it, are you kind of like, oh, it's harder to teach people than I thought, or yeah?
I mean, I'd say, like, I was, even as like a racer, I was generally like very open about like sharing my like so-called secrets. Like, I don't know, if you look at some other racers out there, I don't know, Michaela or Marcel or whatever, like, they don't want anybody videoing them or watching them or telling anybody anything. And like, I was like, if I figured it out at this point, then like, if you're copying me, then I'm 3 steps ahead of you. So I might as well just like blurt it out there. And like,
yep.
So I guess like I'd always like kind of shared what I learned. Like I did that like New York Times thing, and like also like posted a lot of my video and like thoughts on that over the years. And I would coach every summer at Mount Hood too. I had a camp there. So like I was kind of like in it in that sense. And then also like, I'm a technique nerd, I guess. And so like I've thought about these things a lot over the years, and skiing and ski racing is very technical. I think like when I first started working with Carve, is like, okay, like take all these things I've known and learned and try to work on my skiing, and then like adapt it to what we can measure within the unit, which actually like...
Wait, hold up. Somebody just put a can on the far left corner. Is there a third guy here? Just sitting? There's a dude in the corner in the room just watching? That is so weird. Be on camera or don't be at the table. God, this is like the most basic. Okay, I'm gonna paraphrase because this is taking forever. Ted talks about how basically he's never had like industry secrets. He talks about that a little bit. And then he also says that, you know, they're gonna be 3 steps behind me anyway. And he would go to these camps and talk to other people. And a lot of the fundamentals that he's found are not like the upper body, really like technical things that people get in, but more fundamentals from the foot up. Like, how are you carving? And then your arm swinging, things like that. That's just a timing issue. This is so hard to watch. It's so slow. Ted is like one of the most interesting people to listen to talk about skiing. But this setting and this guy talking to him like really drag the questions out and really make it hard to listen to.
I was shocked by like was more than I would have guessed.
Yeah.
And also like I've always believed like that like skiing starts from like the ground up. Like people like get really hung up on like what people are doing at the upper body, and I'm like, no, like everybody's like always would see me in GS like swinging my arms, like that's a timing thing, and it's like maybe a way to like manipulate a little bit more speed out of the turn, but it's not like, that's not a technique thing. Like everything else was like happening like waist down, or, you know,
Yep.
yeah, nipples down basically. So, I guess.
Okay, I'm gonna skip ahead again. I'll see you guys on the other side. I'm going down. I'm going in. Also, I don't know what my kids did to these goggles. I don't know if it's just kid grease or what, but gross. Ugh. Okay, I'll see you in a minute.
And like totally different topic, but
Oh my god, this is so boring. This is the most boring. I don't know why I signed up for this. I love watching Ted Ligety talk about skiing. I could do it forever, but this is the most boring way to do it. Sorry for all of you guys at home, okay? I'm sorry. We're gonna get through this together though. If you've made it this far, congratulations, okay? I swear there's something interesting. Somebody said that he talks about his skis. He's about to talk about his goggles. I'll let you know if there's anything cool. All right, I'm going back down. All right, I think I found something interesting. He's talking about why he started the Shred line. Now, I will say, in 2006, I went to his camp and I bought the first pair of Shred goggles. In fact, I think I still have them somewhere kicking around. But I have like the Gen 1, and I bought them out of the back of Ted's friend's Toyota 4Runner. And it was not new then, and yeah, it was a very long time ago, but it was pretty cool. I mean, it was very groundbreaking in that like there weren't a lot of brands out there, you know? It was like Uvex, Carrera, and Rico or something. There wasn't and they were all like very basic colors, you know, orange, white, gray, black. That was about it, especially Uvex helmets. You could get gray, black, or white. So anyway, he's gonna talk about that. This is something that I found really interesting.
There, and then after the 2006 Olympics, I didn't want to be caught dead skiing with a Uvex, a Brico, a Carrera, or any of that stuff outside of a race course. Like, and that was like really the only options. But also, like, if I raced with a Smith or an Oakley, it just wasn't going to work because like the frames weren't big enough to be able to like have a big enough field of view to see in gates. Which, honestly, for like the normal consumer, whether it's like somebody gonna sideswipe you or skiing trees or whatever, like the product just wasn't good. So I was like, there needs to be, I need something that I think is cool, but also like I need something that helps me in my own racing. And because I was like a tinker and I loved like the product side of things, that was like the initial idea for Shred. And Shred was like a nickname a coach of mine gave me when I was like 10 years old, Ted Shred.
Yeah.
And so Carlo was actually out in Park City staying at my house on a mountain bike ride, and I was telling you about this. He's like, actually, I know where a goggle manufacturer is. Let's go see if like they can make something for us or what they have and what we can do. And then 6 months later, we started it and started pumping product out. And
What year was that?
Yeah, I mean, the field of view was really bad. The problem is now that everybody's caught up, I feel like a lot of the brands' field of view is a lot better. But he's right. Like the old Uvex and the old Carrera was very singular. You could kind of even see the frames while you were skiing. There were a couple of brands that had done an okay job with it, but it had to be like really expensive, like the Oakley, like I forget what they were called, but they kind of had that almost like IMAX view, but then they didn't fit in your race helmet. So that's interesting. I mean, the colors did look cool though. That was a big thing. It's like you'd have all this plain stuff and then just bright pink BAM goggles. It was pretty iconic at the time. Now, I don't know about their stuff. Yeah. It's made in China. It used to be made in Italy. Now it's made in China. And I've yet to find a pair of current gen Shred goggles I've been impressed with. I guess I got a pair of used ones, so I don't know. But so far what I've seen, I don't know. In my opinion, since they moved from Italy to China, the quality has gone down significantly.
now it was like late fall or late November 2006, and then early in 2007 when we first started selling them.
Okay.
And so yeah, we've come a long ways. I mean, nowadays, like, he ended up going to like MIT for business school, and so we work with MIT's sports lab for a lot of like our projects, like our lens technology, and like so for being like one of the only, or probably like the only innovative like independent company out there, like having, you know, patents and technologies that like not even the biggest companies out there have or can perform is pretty cool to be like on that cutting edge. And
all right, it's getting boring again. I'm gonna deep dive down, and hopefully he talks about the Headcore 93 or the Headcore 87. I'll see you on the other side. All right, I still haven't found anything, but this guy's hand keeps coming in and out with the beer. It's so weird. It creates this weird tension between the guests. Like, there's a third person, but they want to be anonymous. It's weird. Who's the third guy? And why do you want to be on camera, huh? What's he hiding? Okay, anyway, I'm going back down. Oh my God, I've been digging through this whole thing. I don't think we're gonna hear about his skis. Oh God, okay, well, he does say one interesting thing about drills, so let's dive into that, because I do think it's cool, and it's something that drives me nuts. He's gonna talk about his favorite drills. I actually really hated drills as a kid. It's part of what pushed me out of ski racing. It was just drills, wait at the bottom, wait for everyone to go, then wait for the coach to come, then go again, one at a time. And it's like you could have made 5 runs in the time it took you to make 1 with the drills. So I'm not a huge fan of drills. I think there are some really good ones that give you some good fundamentals, but there's like a handful of really good ones. So let's see what Ted says. And I should say, I learned most of what I know from Ted or the other coaches at Ted's camp. So it's not surprising that a lot of that stuff was pretty influential to me.
Technique, not like what, arcing the turn, but just like good, solid ski technique.
So I actually have like really strong opinions on drills. Like,
Yeah?
I find it really annoying when people are doing drills and they're not on an arc. So like for me, I hated drills growing up. And if it wasn't a drill that wasn't arcing, I thought it was pointless. Because like if you're doing a drill, you need to see what it actually influences in the arc. And so like I see on the World Cup, like all these guys have these little drill rituals and they're just like sliding these turns and doing these weird arm movements. It's like, you don't even know how that's influencing your ski. Like do it on an arc and then you know how it's influencing the ski. So that's like one piece on drills.
Yes, thank you. God, oh, you gotta do the hip pull plant drill, and you gotta do this drill, and you gotta, oh, what about putting a tray and seeing how your shoulders bounce? But you can't actually carve. If you're not feeling how something influences your carving, it's not a good drill. And don't let the Deb Armstrong fans cheer you, because they're gonna come out and they're pretty vicious. Yeah, it's the stuff that's super nitty gritty, and it misses the point of what good skiing is, and that's timing your pressure to make your ski change shape. How does what you're doing change the ski shape, and how does that ski shape affect your turn shape? And it's like everything else around that is kind of just out in orbit. It can have a slight influence, but you really want to think about things holistically on how it affects your carving. Yes, oh my God. Probably why I like these camps a lot as a kid, because I hated doing the BMA drills. I mean, Berkman Academy, you can't argue with the results, but for like a 10-year-old kid, it was so boring.
So drill I do love is like one ski skiing. Like I do love that,
Trying to
especially
arc.
on like a flatter train, and not only for just like the ability to like have the balance and like switch the edge, but also it just like helps you get the feeling of like locking your hip in, and also like strengthens like glute median and glute and all those areas that like. So I think that's like a great fitness drill, but also like a drill in general. Another one I like is like javelin turns, also like on kind of flat where you can arc, so that also does the same thing, like feels like you lock your hip in.
Yeah.
All right, Ted's done talking. Tom's gonna talk, so I'm gonna skip ahead. I don't know if I'll come back up. Hold on.
That what you say that lock the hip in thing, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
And would you probably say that the people that came in your camp, like you would have really loved to just been able to have like an injection needle that just gave them that feeling, because a lot of them don't have it. It's like, I mean, it's just like staying strong over it.
So whoever wrote that comment, you sent me on a wild goose chase. I must have picked the wrong video up. He doesn't talk about his headcore 93s. He doesn't talk about the headcore 87s. He talks about drills. It's still interesting stuff though. Also, Tom, he just awkwardly walks away. Like Ted's still sitting there. God, has this guy never watched a podcast before or watched any like internet content? This is so boring and awkward and weird. You got Ted Ligety and you got 11,000 views. Golly. This is like what happens when a PSIAA person meets a ski racer. It's like he just asks him like really, really tunnel vision questions. You know, like Ted has gone from being a professional athlete to then like having to balance life with his children. And he talks about it a little bit, but only in like the skiing sense. And it's like, why not ask the other questions? Like, how do you make money when you're no longer on the World Cup circuit? How do you balance those things? How do you go through these things? It's like all these surface level questions. You have one of the best ski racers of all time, and you ask him all these like really weird questions. I don't know. It feels like such a missed opportunity. And he literally has TED Talk about the same like 8 things that TED talks about in every single interview. And it's so boring. Oh God. This was so awkward and so weird. And I am never watching another one of these Tom Gellie clips because it was just like pulling my teeth out. Oh my God. I'm sure all the Deb Armstrong fans are out there that are big Tom Gellie fans. But I just found it to be brutal. So much of the ski industry is just a bunch of fluff and like sucking up to other people and brown nosing, and this is no exception. I don't know Tom personally, I'm sure he's a cool guy, but you could have put like just an ounce of thought into where you're videoing Ted, right? Like, is it that hard to set up a real camera? To have like a little bit of lighting? God, go outside, do something different. I can't just like handle the like awkward angle up on a poker table. Secondly, the audio is like really quiet. It's like nobody edited it carefully. Here's what I do, okay? When I make these videos, I watch them. I watch them like 4 to 6 times, depending, for each video, because you know what I do? I, one, watch everything because I edit it myself. I go through, and then I also like go do a few passes when I edit to make sure it just is like bearable to watch. Then I watch it as somebody who watches YouTube videos. I like skiing content, and that's like the metric for if my video is a success. I don't really care about like, oh, well, this one didn't get as many views, or this one didn't get as many likes. That stuff is great for helping the health of my channel, and I do like, you know, I'll meter it kind of. But for me, a video is a success if I like watching it. There's some videos I have that don't have that many views, but I go, hey, I like that kind of content. I think it's useful and helpful to people. I am a big fan of ski videos on YouTube, so I use myself as a metric. Would I watch this or would I get bored? And I gotta tell you, I love watching Ted Ligety. I'm a huge fan, and I could barely get through this. I had to watch it at double speed, and like, you know, I care about you guys. I'm not gonna subject you to this whole video. So if you want my opinion, this is just a bunch of sucking up. It's somebody who's like really nervous to talk to Ted. I don't know if they got starstruck or what, but this is probably one of the most brutal interviews I've ever watched. And it's also not asking Ted very pointed questions like, you know, hey Ted, why did you stop making your goggles in Italy and start making them in China? Hey Ted, why did you go from Rosagnola to Head? I mean, he kind of asked that, but he was like, oh, there was a really good reason. And Ted, one thing I admire about Ted, and I will say that they got out of this interview, is that he has always been an open book as far as ski style and technique and things like that. And I think that that's why he's probably the most influential ski racer to the sport in general. Because he was such an open book, he had such a broad influence on people's ski styles and the techniques people taught. A lot of Austrian and European styles are a little bit more kind of like, I don't know, just kind of funneled down to specific areas because that stuff, you know, people are kind of guarded about teaching their technique, about teaching their techniques. And because Ted was so open and honest, everybody was influenced because it was so distinct. It was such a cool and fun way to ski. I still prefer skiing in his style as opposed to other things I've tried. So, I don't know. So who's this guy? What's the guy named Tom Gellie? I don't know how you got Ted as a guest, but I would say that you have to be a little more interesting on your own, okay? You can't just rely on these big name guests because yeah, people will watch them, but man, I am not going back to watch any more of your videos because I just found them very uninteresting. Maybe they're better, you know, I'll cut him some slack. I'm sure, again, he's a nice dude. But for me, as somebody who is a fan of ski content and watches ski channels, this was unwatchable. A really good contrast would be someone like Jens on Stompin' Tutorials. Jens is like talking about foundational, like good foundational techniques, but he is so interesting when he talks, and he is so engaging, and he explains things in such a smooth way, and he just oozes charisma. Honestly, the way that he talks and the way that he explains things in a really thorough way, that's the kind of YouTube content I want to watch. So I don't know, Tom, just some constructive feedback. You know, put a little bit more effort into it. Don't just rely on Ted Ligety's name. And Ted was like driving the conversation primarily because he had all these interesting things to say. I've also noticed it seems like Ted is going on more videos, and now that he's retired, he's trying to really re-engage with the ski community on a different level. So, Ted, open invitation. If you ever want to come on my show, we'll come out here in the backyard. It'll take like 20 minutes of your time. You know, I'll put you up in a hotel in Boise. I know you go to a camp in Mount Hood and you're in Park City. I'm exactly halfway there. So if you want to come out here, you know, I'll pay for your hotel, whatever, or, you know, just come through whenever. Open invitation. I'd love to have you on. I'd love to talk to you about the nitty gritty, ask you like hard questions, ask you more about the goggles. You can plug whatever you need to. You want to react to memes, we can do that. Just come by on your way through. We'll do it in like, we could honestly do it in under half an hour, but that's an invitation. Ted, if you're watching this by some small chance, I say that, but then like Bodie Miller watches some of these videos too, so who knows? But Ted, open invitation. You want to come on the show? It'll be quick. It'll be easy. I won't make you do all the talking. Come on to the show. It'll be fun. Who knows? It's probably a small chance. Although, Ted, I think you have my number from all those years at camp, so feel free to reach out, or you can get it from Miguel. But open invitation. I always say that stuff's a long shot, and then, you know, and then suddenly a pair of peak skis from Bodie show up on the door. So who knows? But anyway, that's my thoughts on this video. Thanks so much for making through the video. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. As always, just, you know, I couldn't do these videos without you guys. Thanks for being here. If you like this kind of content, please consider liking and subscribing. You can also become a member if you want some of those benefits. Also, if you want to know what kind of stuff I ski on, I'll have all those links down below. But as always, just thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. And as always, I'll see you in the next one. See ya.